It's now lesson 4 of this week, and today, if you cast your mind back to that special video that we saw at the start of the week from Hercules, we're going to be actually starting making his main challenge today. So we're going to be looking at your mosaics today. But first of all, before we start that, I just wanted to give you a little bit more information about the Romans, really. Now, as you probably know already, or you might not know, but the Romans were a people which came from Italy, and then they grew and they conquered other lands and they overtook other lands. So as they did that, they took things from those cultures which they liked. They even sort of adopted and adapted other people's gods. So when the Romans met the Greeks, for example, they heard all the stories about the Greek gods, thought they were really cool, and they adopted all of the Greek gods for themselves. But they changed the names of the gods to make them more Roman, and they changed some of the stories to make the gods act a little bit more in a Roman way. And soon they were telling all the people that they had been like this all along. So it's the same with Hercules. Hercules was actually originally called Heracles, and it was a legend from the Greeks. But the Romans took the legend, took the myth, and they changed it to Hercules. And I want to tell you in a moment just one more of Hercules' labours. So this one was actually his 6th labour, and it was mentioned in his video that he sent to us. It was actually to clean the Augean stables in a single day. Now, Augean, who was a king, he had many sheep and many cows, many cattle, and all of them were kept in in the royal stables. And Hercules' task was to clean the stables in one day. Now that might sound quite an easy job and quite a nice task for him to do, but the stables hadn't actually been cleaned for over 30 whole years. It was not nice at all. As you can imagine, cows and sheep can get a little bit smelly, and the most horrible smell greeted Hercules when he came to clean out the stables. Now, obviously, Hercules only had one day, so he wouldn't have been able to sweep and clean as he normally would. So he decided that he needed an awful lot of water to wash away all of the filth, really. And he used his incredible strength to push not one, but 2 rivers, the riverbeds of nearby rivers, to change their course so that the rivers actually rushed through the stables and cleaned them out. And it was an incredibly clever solution because the job was done in a couple of hours. The water flowed through and washed away all of the dirt, and Hercules had completed his challenge. Now, Hercules then, after he did that, he needed to put the rivers back where they were. So he put them back to where they were, but he left just one tiny stream that the animals could drink out of. So he left one there for them. And when all the animals who lived in the stables came home that night, they found clean hay, warm beds, warm buckets of oats, and most importantly, the stream. Fresh running water, and the animals came home. They couldn't have been more happy, and neither could have the king. Now that you know a little bit more about another one of Hercules' labours, we're going to look at Roman mosaics today. That's going to be our focus for today and also tomorrow for the next 2 lessons. So, what is a mosaic? Now, mosaics were found in Roman buildings, often on the floor, and they were decorated with mosaics, which are pictures made from tiny coloured stones, which the Romans called tesserae. Mosaics have been found that show scenes of history, also myths for Hercules and mythical creatures. I'll show you one of a particular mythical creature in a moment, as well as mosaics depicting everyday Roman life. Now, mosaics on the floor are often really beautiful, but they were also a statement of how rich, how wealthy, and how important Roman people were. Quite often, not many people could afford them because they cost a lot of money, but the bigger and the more detailed the mosaic, the more impressive. So people used to get the best mosaics they possibly could to show off how rich and how wealthy they were. As I said before, the Romans stole a lot of their ideas from the Greeks, and the Greeks were the first people to make mosaics, but then the Romans stole this idea, but they, instead of using pebbles like the Greeks did, they started to use stones which are cut. and they used to use them in lots of different places, so bathhouses and temples and public areas and other important places were often decorated with mosaics. Now, some mosaics had pieces cut down to 1 to 2 millimeters. Now, if you remember our maths learning about millimeters and centimeters, a millimeter is tiny. So some of the patterns were incredibly intricate and detailed. This example is called the Alexander mosaic, and you can see this today in a place called Pompeii in Italy. And as you can see, it's incredibly detailed, and unless you look incredibly closely, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was made up of lots and lots of tiny little stones. A few examples of mosaics, and this is a picture of a lady, made a mosaic depicting a lady, and as you can see, if you look really closely, you can see lots and lots of tiny little square pieces that have been made up to make the lady's hair, the lady's face, and the background as well. Now this is a different example. This is just more of a pattern, so it's not depicting any particular person or an animal, but Romans also like to use patterns in their mosaics too. And here you can see another mosaic which uses both patterns, and also it depicts a mythological creature right in the middle. I wonder if anybody knows what that mythological creature might be. This is an example of a mosaic, and obviously it's not complete because it has actually been damaged over the years, but you can see that there is a mythological creature which is Pegasus, the winged horse, right in the middle. And some of the mosaic tiles you can see, but if I just hover, you can just see some of the details and how many tiles. So that's Pegasus's head, for example. How many separate little pieces would have been used to create the mosaic which you see. I think it's pretty impressive, and in a moment you're going to start to make your own. Okay children,